Okay, we are 1 o'clock on the button there, so I'm just going to get started with our webinar today. So first of all, just like to say hello and welcome to all of you in attendance for our webinar. This webinar is the second last in this year's engineering trends in digital engineering, or emerging trends in digital engineering this year, with our last event of the series being held on the 1st of December, where we will have Emma Lacey from Reliance Automation speaking about a digitalized private tendering process that they've developed there. So I just wanted to mention that and would like to also invite you all to join us for that on the 1st of December. But back to today's event. So we are joined by John Rains. John is a chartered engineer and investment director and head of innovation at Mott MacDonald's Engineering in the UK. So John regularly consults on supporting clients with their innovation ambitions in the infrastructure sector. And he's kindly given us his time today to talk about Mott MacDonald's approach to covering platform-based delivery and innovation management, and just to show us some practical examples of how the approach is being applied there themselves. So look, we are going to move through the presentation with John. It is sort of divided into three sections. So John is happy to break at 2 points during the presentation to answer any questions you may have at that point, just covering the specific topics. So I'd ask you to use the Q&A function at the bottom toolbar on Zoom, and then again at the end of the presentation we'll open up for Q&A again. So apart from that, just to make you aware that a recording of today's webinar will be shared with you in the coming days following the webinar. And also, last but not least, just to ensure that you record your CPD hours accredited for attending today's webinar. So from there, I will pass on over to John to start his presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Niamh. Very kind of you. And good afternoon or morning or evening if there's people dialing in internationally. It's a privilege to just talk a little bit about some of our experiences in this area. I'll just maybe talk a little bit about my background and then go on to overview of Mott MacDonald for maybe people don't know too much about the company, or some will, some won't. Go on through to platform-based delivery and innovation management. I'm also going to touch on a bit of venture capital towards the end as well. But yeah, keen to get some questions. And if you want to stop me and ask it on the question, feel free. When I was just putting together the slides, I hopped on. Obviously, I did a little bit of background engineers. I had a brilliant setup, and I noticed your values, so that's why I put it on the front slide, and they're actually quite similar to the Mott MacDonald ones as well. So I just thought I'd put those on as a reminder to me, really, on how important that they are. So a little bit about me, an introduction. So I live near Manchester and work all over the country, and a little bit internationally as well. I'm going right back to where I got into engineering in the first place. I was very curious as a child, always wanting to know why, and sort of digging holes various places and things. I actually got into a technical course after school and did an HND, which actually got me over to Europe in Stockholm and Denmark, and digging holes and auger boreholes and welding things together. It's fantastic, and I'm sure that was that experience really I know it helped my career, and really that practical experience of meeting people and getting out and about set me off in a nice direction. I then actually went to do a degree, and then I did a PhD in two-phase flows just to finish it off as well. I started with Bechtel Water Technology in the northwest of England, and just the first thing in 1997, doing a few inventions. This one's improving grit removal on wastewater treatment works, and then ending up a little bit of time later on, 13 years later, ending doing design management. So I was the design manager for the construction phase on Davyhulme wastewater treatment works. And then a little bit further on, getting into the digital side and digital engineering. I'll show you an example of this later on. And then through to the whole of innovation management at its broadest sense at an enterprise level as well. So that's just a little bit about me. Background on Mott MacDonald. So we're an international company, engineering management development consultancy. We're privately owned and employee owned as well, which I think really affects our culture. And our purpose is to solve the most urgent social, environmental, economic challenges all around the world, improving social outcomes. So we have a number of sectors on this slide, sort of 18,000 people to $2 billion, as they say, company. So it's a little bit of background on the company worldwide. In Ireland in particular, and I know that Engineers Ireland is an international organisation, but just to focus on what Mott MacDonald is doing in Ireland, again, we've got the multi-sector approach. There's about 200 plus staff in 3 offices, Belfast, Cork and Dublin, I think, and some of the projects we've been working on are on here as well. So strong presence in Ireland particularly. So platform-based delivery, and the topic, hope this of interest to everybody. What I'm going to talk through is our story, and kind of what it is and why we do it, and what step change it might have in the engineering industry for the future, which is really a more efficient way of delivering and managing information. The why have we actually created this in the first place? And maybe just to touch on the name, Moata is a Maori name because the original invention was created by a team in New Zealand, and it's something, I'm going to get this quite right, but it's New Horizons. It's that type of thing. And you know, we have a very strong team over in New Zealand who are very much involved with the continued development of this. But it's basically helping us solve engineering problems with more creativity. It helps us positively disrupt the industry and make a step change, maybe in improvement in productivity, and actually then really drives us through to ultimate improving social outcomes. That's the whole point. So it's quite a big investment that we're putting into this globally. On the right-hand side, you can see that the logon for this, and I'm going to go into the platform and show you that a little bit, but it's basically a piece of software, a platform on which sits a load of products which we use, and we do our engineering services, and we make that available for our clients as well as using it ourselves. Some of the background for this is that pieces of software can be disconnected. Information maybe doesn't flow from one to the other. Maybe information is inconsistent, it's out of date. Sometimes the timescales change, and maybe there could be better efficient working on projects managing information. And what we're proposing, what we've worked on here is to try and fix all of that. So if I just sort of hop onto there might be an advert play, so apologies for that, but I'm just going to hop onto YouTube and play a little bit of I think it's a couple of minutes video, which explains a little bit more about what platform-based delivery is all about. So this is just scrolling through the platform. There's a bit of a community on there. And then, as I say, there's a log on, and these are some of the products which we've got available. I'm just going to stop sharing and then share something else. So just bear with me 1 second whilst I do that. And Neve, maybe you could help out, give me a thumbs up or something if the sound comes through. I just want to do a sound check as I play this, if that's okay. Just going to share my screen, hang on. There we go, and go.
That's just not sharing at the moment, John.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. How about that?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Just check with the volume. Yeah,
Can you hear that?
great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Just bear with me whilst I flip back to my slides. There we go. And Neve could just help me out to check I'm on sharing again.
All good.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, so what I've just shown you there is an example of on a platform as a piece of software, and then the example there was what's called Route Optimizer, and the step change on that. So what the team has been managed to do is bring multiple data sets together to be able to basically click on the map X and Y, and then it will route through based on engineering, built-in engineering parameters to give you the lowest whole life cost, of which you then develop and the detailed engineering on the back of that. And I've got a few more slides, so hopefully that gives you a flavour of the type of the thing that Moata actually is. So we've got loads of different solutions available around this to various different degrees across multiple disciplines. And the way that this works, maybe going back to sort of explaining platform-based delivery, is this is a way of presenting the platform. And we talk about digital times domain, and the reason we say that, or it's domain times digital I should say, is because we think this is augmenting an engineer's skill. It's not absolutely not replacing it. It just basically makes you go better and faster, and we kind of put a times in there because you think that the inclusion of digital engineering building on engineers' experience and knowledge can really multiply that to that effect. So on the left hand side, we're always starting with client challenges. So what we don't want to do ever in digital engineering is sort of push a solution and say, you should use this, or this may or may not work around this. We're starting with understanding the jobs to be done, the client challenges. For in this case, I just showed what's required on engineering pipeline design. And then looking backwards into the different solutions, which are in this case in the black layer, are represented by a white dot and purple circle around that. So choose the right solutions. Probably won't have all the solutions in place. It may help you at the moment, but have we got digital solutions to actually help on that? And then that's all based upon a platform where we're managing the data really well. The circles and the diagrams in there, the reason we've got a sort of white dot and a purple circle is that the white dot represents this product itself, the piece of software, and the purple around that represents the service. So that's kind of the domain and the way that we're using that. So hopefully that makes sense, and do put some questions in. I'll get ready. I'm going to finish in a few slides, maybe open up for a few questions around this. But going into a little bit more detail on the digital platform itself, and again, the sort of main part of the talk on platform-based solutions is that the platform itself is more than just hosting a few products and things. This will actually build in to making sure that we're managing personal data well, i.e. not revealing it. We can integrate API connections with other pieces of software. We can bring in and send out data to other ones, and we can utilize machine learning to help some of those solutions as well. So all the items at the bottom are the type of things that we can do. As an example, sort of talked about some practical examples. So in the northwest of England in the UK, there was some flooding, severe flooding events in Cumbria, and we deployed one of our solutions. And this is our client just giving us a little bit of feedback. We're talking about some major savings here. So this is the program being cut by a year, and we're talking about the type of things we're doing. A step change is not cutting 2 or 3% off things, it's dropping 50, 60, 70% faster on things. So step change through this platform delivery. So the Moata Route Optimizer, and maybe going through a little bit of a story on this one. This actually started with my colleague Lewis in the Cambridge office wandering over to me about 6 years ago now, I think, where we had thousands of pipelines designed to be progressed throughout the world. And we were doing it, some calculations and spreadsheets and pieces of software. And Lewis and the team said to me, if I give them 5,000 quid to just trial a little bit of something, they could actually optimize and help the spreadsheet go a little bit faster, and maybe bring a little bit of machine learning into this and start to embed some of the engineering knowledge, and sort of go forward 5 years or so with multiple stages and investment. We've turned that into a particular product based on the platform, which then automates or semi-automates that engineering design as well, and making some significant changes. So we're pretty proud of that, and it's quite an interesting journey on all of the behavioral side, the managing uncertainty, the resilience needed, the different changing in leadership in the team. This is not a straightforward thing to navigate that pathway through innovation to develop these things as well. So it was a good journey, but we got there. So that's an example. I guess the other thing is that sort of developing a community so people can ask around this is key to the platform-based delivery. Is you can go too much down a technical route where it becomes all techie, and it's really important to have the client challenges front and center, the social outcomes you're actually aiming for right there, but also the people side, making in platform-based delivery user-centric and easy to navigate through as well, so that people who can't code, if you like, can access these things as well. So there's a lot of effort gone into that type of thing as well. And I think that's key for platform-based delivery, ours and other ones as well. So yeah, I think I'll just pause there for a moment, just see if anyone wants to, I'll just come out of that and see if anyone wants to ask any questions or challenges or comments. So feel free to come off mute or pop something into the chat if you want to. And Niamh, help me out if it's already there and I can't see it.
No, John, no questions at the moment.
Okay, I shall.
Oh, we have one.
Let's have a look. Right, got two. Brilliant, thank you. So Jeff's, do you experience user adoption issues? Oh yes, cracking question. Yeah, suppose there's the user adoption. I've just come off a presentation on that actually, so it's a good timing. It's taken us a long time, and it's a long road to really build the momentum for user adoption around that. We've done really well. It's basically got stronger and stronger and stronger. It's about, I think at the beginning, people are thinking, I'm not, you know, it's such a step change. How does this affect me? And all the implications of that. And really what we worked on was just trust and demonstration and case studies and getting going. So yeah, it was tough at the beginning, and it's taken a while. It's always been positive. It's always been getting there, but it takes a while just to get those things through. So yeah, definitely. Kamuata from Robbie. Thank you, Robbie. Kamuata be used in the construction phase. Yes, we've got it can be used in all phases of construction. So we've got what we call augmented smart infrastructure and augmented delivery, and depends what kind of solutions. There's one later on maybe on some ground engineering I can bring in there. I think most of them are more at the design end at the moment, but we do have ones in the construction and operational side of things as well. I don't think we've got anything for demolition yet. I'm just, some of them are disappearing for me, Neve, so help me out. But the one that's I've got next, I think one hopped off the top of the screen was Amy. Sorry, was before Amy's one.
Yeah, so they're the answered ones. So Amy Farrell.
Oh, you're clicking them off. I got you. You. I'm being slow. I'm being slow.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Amy, Republic of Ireland, clients are more open than others to support digital. How do you manage the client buy-in, identify best clients? Yeah, it's great. Yeah, all good questions. I think case studies are the things that do it. You sort of get from a I don't really believe you type of stuff, and everyone talks about this, and you just got to get the trust levels and case studies coming through on that. So there was a second part to the question I couldn't see there on maybe on the financial side. It's a very different business model, I would say. Maybe I touched on that later on. So paying on software as a service and annual recurring revenue is very different to paying engineers by the hour. Maybe you can touch on that later on. Michael, factors that play into system, sustainability, energy. Yeah, I guess as a comment, I don't know if there's a question there about that. Are they sustainability? We do have a strong emphasis on with going through to social outcomes, which effectively lead through to what our impact on the SDGs and the targets for the 17 SDGs as well. So I don't know if that quite answers your question. And we have a net zero target as well with our customers and within McDonald's ourselves. So yeah, big factors in the system. Didn't demonstrate there, but I can cover that another time maybe. Thanks, Jack. How do you find the experience of pulling together different people's knowledge into a centralized tool? Yeah, really difficult. I think you're talking about, if you say, and I think Engineers Ireland, of course, is multidisciplinary, as I understand that, of civil engineers, mechanical, electric. Forgive me if I've got the wrong, but that's my understanding. So you have little lots of different behaviors and traditions that are built up over time, and what the platform-based delivery does is sort of clash everyone together, and the collaborative working's key, and you really have to understand people's slightly different behaviors and things around that as well. So yeah, it's tough, and the behavioral side of this is equal or more important than the technical side of getting people to work together as well. Very different opinions. Thank you. Can we compare it with industry standard softwares such as Civils 3D? Yeah, definitely. So Civils 3D, you know, we would API out of this into Civils 3D and the Bentley and Autodesk packages and swap data back and forward. So this is in enhancing and working with rather than replacing existing ones. Yeah, so it works with it rather than replacing it. We're not trying to take over and have the whole software company. It's just the engineering side, so data flows nice and easily, can help you do your job. How accurate the database is used, how are they constructed? I don't know if I can answer that one. I mean, we make sure that the data we use, we check all the data that's coming in, so accurate enough, but it depends on which ones. I mean, it's the same as any other data sources, I guess. It is difficult, and you get into, is it valid and relevant and statistically based? I would suggest that of Infonomics by Doug Laney is a good way of valuing the information, but I probably can't answer how accurate the database is, but general comments. So yeah, I really appreciate the questions, thank you, and just a bit of engagement. It's a bit lonely if you can't see anyone on these things as well. So if that's it for now, maybe I'll go on to the innovation management side of things, if that's okay with you, Niamh, and share again. Great. Yeah, thanks everyone sharing that. So I'll just go back to there, and hopefully I'm sharing again. Okay, so innovation management. So the whole of the Moata platform-based approach and the products which sit on the platform and all the things we've just talked about there on the behavioral side, for me, that is innovation management. It's sort of a bigger piece, if you like, and I'm fascinated by this topic, and maybe I'm just going to share a little bit of the timeline of what we've done there as well. So we've spent quite a few years. There's loads of innovation going on in the industry. Engine infrastructure in particular is difficult. We're looking after the infrastructure for countries and people's health, and therefore there are some very correct and stringent requirements and quality standards to meet. But the downside is it's quite difficult to change those requirements and get everyone lined up, of course. So certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had a real push on innovation, and as part of my role, we wrote an innovation strategy in 2018 on this slide. Started up our CVC, which is Mott MacDonald Ventures. Going to talk about that later on, investing in startups. Actually, our own business from helping our partners and clients to innovate by innovation management consulting, which I'll talk a little bit later as well, and framework. And I'm very proud to acknowledge that we got the BSI assessment for our innovation as well to the standard last year as well. So that's kind of our journey. The next point really going to is can you actually standardize innovation? And I would say no, but you can standardize the management of innovation. And so I'm talking about management and sort of a bit like 9001 and quality standards, but for innovation. So if you didn't know, and I don't know if I can get rid of my little thing at the top here, help me out if anyone knows what button to press, if you can see that bar at the top. But this is the ISO 56002, which is the suite of the 56,000 innovation management standards, which not everyone knows about. But this little diagram, which I sometimes call the walnut diagram, sort of sets out your typical pipeline and the fuzzy front end and the funnel of ideas and the intent and opportunities you might want to take on the left, through to value and outcomes on the right, and a sort of stage process, which is definitely not linear, and there's lots of iterations and things. But the standard itself talks around what leadership is required, what support, information, people, data to do that, and what is the context of the organization or the departments within that organization that is required to put a whole innovation management system in place, really to help the ideas go through, choose the best ones, and end up with the best chance of value being produced for the company, the clients of that company, and society at large as well. And in my experience, they generally get stuck about here. We've definitely got loads of ideas. We can do a little bit of discovery and a few experiments, but then it sort of peters out. And so this system is, I say, international one put in place to help everybody out. There are a number of standards. There's a suite actually up to 10 now. The ones in bold are the ones that are published, I believe. The key one, which will be a requirements one where people can get audited against, is going to be out in a couple of years. And there's ones on opportunity and idea management and how to measure it in metrics, which are due out as well. But number 2 gives you probably most of the things you need to actually have a good look at that and put an IMS, innovation management system, in place. And the reason we do it is that really you've got to sort of, the world is changing very, very fast, and you kind of got to keep innovating and doing better things to improve, and maybe some transformational things as well, to keep businesses going in this world as well. So that's kind of the why we do it. And then what I've done here is sort of break down into 5 areas on the context, leadership, opportunities, governance, support, and value in the next few slides, just to sort of dive into that in a little bit more detail. So first of all, the context. What I'm showing here is the a diagram of just sort of different business models, maybe for engineering, just one of the questions reminded me of we're paid on hours a lot, or got lump sums and target cost contracts, but it's probably not a lot of software as a service contracts on annual recurring revenue. So we've got current business models. Platform-based delivery might be a next or a future model, but different business models might be required to map to different technologies, and that mapping is absolutely critical. We know that there are new technologies coming through, like platform-based delivery, and lots of stuff on CCTVs, monitoring construction and the quality of construction, mapping what's happening on a construction site relative to what the program is. That can be done pretty much automatically now. But the link between the two is pretty key, because if you stay with the current business model through to the future technologies, in my experience, there's often a bit of a clash there, and that's what can hold it back. The other part on this is the 3 stages. This is typically your sort of continuous improvement, doing current things a little bit better. This is where I'm trying to operate on what we're talking about, which is Horizon 2, maybe a year or 2 out, next generation things, and then Horizon 3 as your classic model would be future ones that are in the track. There's a Gartner hype cycle that people might be interested in, showing you where the technologies are developed. I always find that interesting. And also some people say there's a sort of maybe an easy way of looking at this is to look at 70, 20, 10 percentage-wise of where you should be looking across an innovation portfolio. Those are sort of the classic cases. But having a consistent terminology to able to have this conversation around the world in innovation land is key, I think, to be able to know what stage are you even at. Setting the level of ambition on here, talking about, are you talking Horizon 1, 2, or 3 is also quite useful. And as I said, mapping the idea to the appropriate business model is pretty key. This one really is just talking about on operating models of whether you should have an innovation team or whether you should distribute that innovation team to the various business units or mix it up a little bit. And there's a great, I'll do a plug, there's a great book, I don't know if you can see that, by Frank Matz called Lean Scale Up. I'd really recommend it, sort of playing on the words for Eric Race on Lean Startup. But Frank talks about the red shirts and the blue shirts. And of course, generally people who've got a lot of the ideas and innovation maybe have a different character set for people who've got the budgets often. Not always the case, but sometimes. So red shirts and blue shirts and that behavioral side. And so the answer in my view is to mix it up a little bit and have secondments into departments and don't have two separate teams. But I'm sure people have other views. Maybe you can put a few challenges in when we break for some questions again. So the leadership side of future focused leadership, the comments I guess I have around this is that similar to what I was just saying, I advocate ambidextrous leadership where you need both mindsets of the core business and project management and business outcomes, which obviously are essential, but also the creativity and the curiosity. And of course, there are people who have both, of course there are, but having the ability to, in the context of switching between those and being able to maybe connect different people is a key skill, I think. The situational one is about situational leadership, or situational leadership 2, as we've sort of drawn that from, about the ability and when to recognize that actually different leadership is required at different stages of maturity on the innovation. So maybe the creative side of your classic inventor, maybe they're not the best person to upscale that globally on a business side, which is where sometimes the roles change. Sometimes they can, but knowing how to change those at the right time is pretty key. But keeping that inspiration and the passion on the right-hand side and showcasing, demonstrating the case studies, always feeding back on where people are up to is absolutely critical. So those are kind of some of the 3 things I think are important. Through the middle part of the actual ideas itself, I just share our innovation framework, which is based on the standard. I'm trying to keep it nice and simple, but what I find is this sort of anchors a good conversation. When I talk to colleagues and clients, just say, are we talking about the challenges? Are we talking about, are you trying to do an experiment, incubating, resources? And I've defined it at the top. And we've defined it as the application of new ideas to realize value. In other words, innovation isn't just about creativity, it's about delivering it and getting value out as well, or otherwise known as exploiting as well as exploring. So that's our framework. The next item is managing uncertainty. And the concept here that I'm trying to demonstrate on the diagram with time increasing time across the bottom, and on the left hand side at the bottom assumptions, lots of uncertainty, and at the top more knowledge and less uncertainty, is that typical infrastructure and engineering delivery projects are very different from innovation activities, I'll say, rather than calling them a project. And they're different fundamentally, because a project, you will want requirements and you want the data to get together, and accuracy of databases to use that, as was mentioned before. And then you increase the knowledge on that project and hopefully continue to improve on multiple ones. In innovation land, you start with very little knowledge, because that's the point. You're just starting with a load of assumptions. And I would encourage anyone doing this to write down what those assumptions are and actually measure how many assumptions that you are converting to knowledge during the incubate and the experimental side of things. And because they're different and you've got limited time around this, you've probably got to go faster. And I find that in the industry, many people are treating innovation projects like your typical professional project management, APM or Prince2, and there's a big clash there because of the lack of knowledge. And so that's sort of changed my thinking of just saying, hey, give them a break. They don't know. When you're asking them for a massive business case, it kind of doesn't work because they don't know yet. But what you can ask is a list of assumptions, and then as you progress at maybe your weekly or your fortnightly meeting, how many assumptions are you converting? So it's kind of a suggestion to deal with things slightly differently. On the opportunity side, challenge-led innovation, I'm really keen on this. This is what we do inside Mott MacDonald. I know a lot of our clients are doing this, and probably maybe people on this call are doing this as well, which would be good. But having a clear problem to solve and articulating that with a very clear challenge statement is a critical thing. If you don't know what problem you're solving, it's difficult. I think possible Einstein quote on, if you had an hour, spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute with the solution, which is kind of along that line. So these are some of the ones that we've done internally on the right, and just a particular shout out to the future of energy, in this case hydrogen, which was a project we had in the North Sea, and we were looking at how the hydrogen affects and goes into the pipelines in the existing pipe. So there's issues around how the pipeline design and how you actually look at that. So these are some of the internal events, but what I'm encouraging our teams to do and working with our clients is our clients have already published many of these on the website. So let's can partner with people. Maybe on this call, you'd like to partner with us on some and try and solve them together. On the support side, just a little bit of training, again, sharing what we do. So on the right-hand side, we've got some guidance notes on how do you do this and some training. And then a shout out again to my colleagues in Sweden. So haven't got the actual course there, but this is by a company called Amplify, who run one of the few, I think, innovation management courses, and we've signed up to this. I find it works really well. Just gives you an overview of how to put those innovation management systems in place. And so I think I've just got a couple of slides before another break, and maybe just thinking about some questions for me in a minute if you want to. Next slide is using the business model canvas. So maybe people on the call know this already, so forgive me for going through this, but for those who don't, it's basically how can you put a business on a plan on a page. And I think about it in 3 areas of market, technical and commercial. So the right-hand side at the top is who are your customers, segmentation, what relationship have you got, how do you deliver through to them, what's your value proposition to solve their problems. On the top left is what are the activities in 5 to deliver the value proposition you're thinking of in 2, what resources do you need to do that, and who could you partner with to deliver that as well. And therefore on the bottom side, on the commercial, you have what's the stuff on the left going to cost, and what's how much revenue can you are people willing to pay on the right, and hopefully 9 is more than 8, and you can make a reasonable profit. And so using this for innovations and then thinking about who your customers are, as well as the technical side and what business model might be appropriate, I found a useful way to have a conversation with the teams as well. Some of the personas required, of course, is classic hipster, hacker, heckler required. And these are the different personas required of whether you want marketing, the technical person, or your commercial aspect as well. So we find that quite useful. Metrics to evaluate how you are innovating. These are some of the suggestions I've boiled down to over the last couple of years, keeping it simple, but some of the more impactful ones is, are people engaged with the whole innovation thing at all? Number one, you get excited at the beginning, but keeping that going. Some of these things take a few years to come through. How fast are you going? Are we making the right decisions? Are we actually making decisions on these things? Or are sort of people saying, I need a little bit more knowledge, please, on something? Sometimes that happens in the industry, I've found as well. And importantly, are we realizing the value? And that's a tough one, what value means to different stakeholders, but getting towards whatever value you were aiming for at the beginning. So I thought I've just got one more vid, I think, and then I'll pause for another set of questions. So I'll do a quick chat, Niamh, with you, if that's okay, whether this is going to play okay. So it should play directly. But basically, this is a project, thanks. This is a project we've got in North America, and it's called Getting the Lead Out. And it comes from a very serious problem we had in the lakes in Flint, Michigan, I think, where they've still got quite a lot of lead in the service lines to houses delivering water. And that, in some cases, has contaminated the water and causing some serious health problems. And there's a massive program right now to take the lead service lines out and replace them. But the problem is you're going to know where they are in the first place. So I've got a little video here of one of the innovations. It actually uses platform-based delivery to find that as well. So hopefully it's a good example for everyone on you know, what we're actually doing, and right through to improving people's lives and in some cases saving lives. So that's what it's all about, and the video is just here. So hopefully this will play, and Niamh, let me know if it doesn't.
Yep.
Hello, this is John Wujek from Mott MacDonald's West Springfield, Massachusetts office in the United States. Thank you for the opportunity to represent the Getting the Lead Out team that won the 2021 Milne Innovation Award Challenge category. Over the past year, there have been many developments in this area. I'm delighted to update you on how our award-winning work on lead remediation has progressed. A video will follow this introduction that highlights background information on programs we supported, new regulations in the United States that impact our clients, work we have completed, and most importantly, the innovative tools that we've leveraged to win more work. Again, thank you for this opportunity, and please email me if you have any questions or comments.
Great, there we go. So yeah, I hope that was interesting to everyone. I think it's a fantastic video. That John's a really great guy. He does mean it, actually. He just did that for me, a delivered tweak on that yesterday. So if anyone's interested in that, just let me know and I can put you in touch with John on what's been done there. So I think I'll pause, as I said I would there, see if there's any more questions or comments.
John, you've one question from Debussy asking, how do you link innovation to research and development?
Yeah, it's another good question. So in my mind, innovation sort of defines as including research and development, and then the stages beyond that through to experimentation, sometimes through the technology readiness levels. If R&D's TRL 1, 2, 3, maybe, then innovation is 1, 2, 3 right through to 9 and beyond as well. So that's how I link them. How they are linked in society is tricky, and then they're not linked as good as they should do. And in my opinion, we've got very different incentivization. So typically, you know, with universities and businesses, there's some amazing connections around there. But I think there's more that we can do around that. So yeah, that's how I think they're connected, but I think they can be better connected. Thank you. And if there's no other questions, I'll go to the third and final part, which is on CBC. So I'll just review that as well. I'll just mention briefly that our innovation management services, as I said, we actually deliver this as a service for our clients as well. And these are the typical things that we do around developing innovation strategies, maturity assessments, but in the infrastructure space in particular. So again, people interested in that, give me a shout. There's our journey that I've just been through and going through on the ventures side. I'll just time check. So, okay. So, I had the great pleasure of starting Mott MacDonald Ventures about 3 years ago now. And the reason we did that is really co-creating digital solutions with startups. Pretty much could be all around the world. There's been one in Spain, a lot of conversations over in Australia, and the other ones in the UK. But the idea is that we probably don't have the answers within our company to everything. So really we should partner with other people and bring that through, and obviously help out founders and starters and build new businesses and help grow economies around the world, or play our very small part in doing that. So you do need the technical expertise, of course, to actually understand whether you're solving real problems that clients are willing to pay for. And that was kind of our pitch to founders to make them connect and get them connected through to our market reach. And that's kind of what we're doing. The philosophy is really to tackle some of the biggest problems, certainly around climate change, environmental degradation, urbanization, city solutions. They need to be big enough and scale enough to warrant putting the investment in the first place. So they tend to be those Horizon 2 type solutions. And hopefully we can co-create some of those. And I've got a couple of examples later on. So we're working with startups and internally with our business units, because they're the people who are going to own the relationship ultimately. We're working with clients. We've done some work through in the UK through I3P, which is the Infrastructure Industry Innovation Partnership, and been doing some work with HS2 as well, particularly on high-speed 2 rail, with how they might want to do similar approaches around this as well. And indeed, they already are at scale, and they're on, I think, cohort 5 for partnering with startups to bring those onto the program as well. So they're pretty leading in this kind of area, and then right through to social outcomes, making an impact. So I'll just go on to a couple of examples. So these are the 6 companies we've invested in to date. Above is surveying for solar assets at the moment, but they can automatically survey and detect degradation on existing infrastructure. 3D Repo are a way of managing data sets, sort of BIM Max, and managing information data sets around some of the models around there. One Planet is a way of mapping the impact and the actions in a holistic way to see whether the sustainability efforts that you're putting in place can make an impact. SALG is about getting data from the ground and managing ground risk. Built Ideas community engagement, and Piccolo is a platform, another platform-based delivery for managing contracts around the energy market, and they're all, it's quite a diverse team, which is why we've sort of chosen different things as well, and we're talking to them all still now, and some of them are going better than others, but it's all good. The SALG one, just to go into that in a little bit more detail as an example, this is really about, I'll just nip to the next slide, actually, it's probably easier. This is really about having ground sensors. So to an earlier question of construction, and this is actually tapped into our platform as well. We've got a very strong partnership with Christian and Ignacy, who are in Barcelona, where their office is based. They have ground sensors in excavation, large excavations typically. Their piece of software will take that data, ingest it, structure it in a suitable way, and then compare that against the existing ground model, in this case Plaxis, and tell you the differences. So in a simple case, it's kind of, is the ground soft, hard, better or worse than you thought it was, and how can you manage that? So if you think, if you can get data give you confidence the ground is stronger, maybe you don't need, for example, as much cross bracing, and you can reduce the costs because the risk is less, and increase the and the programming go a little bit faster. So that's what they do. Again, if interested in any of these, just look after me, come back in touch with me afterwards. On the right hand side is one of our chief geotechnical engineer, Tony O'Brien, has written one of the books on this, and this is a new technique of the observational method, which basically look at the ground and use data to make better decisions. Next example is GreenPass, which is not an investee, but we've got a very strong relationship with them, and I think they're fantastic. I think this is the office of, this is the the Vienna office. Basically, it's greening infrastructure, and they've got a way of measuring the impact with numbers of what, if you put trees on the side, you had vertical infrastructure of green, what actually impact would have for local cooling and air quality, and they've got a great system. So I'm sure they'll be pleased for me plugging them. But I think they're really making some inroads there. That's the GreenPass one, and then kind of think that's it. So sort of, I hope it's interesting for everyone. I did a bit of a skim through a whole range of things there on platform-based delivery and plugging what we're doing, innovation management more generally to the international standard, and the venture partnering to sort of turn some of the ideas R&D said into innovations and right through into outcomes to help people around the world make a bit of money whilst you're doing it for the business as well, which is important. So yeah, I hope that's interesting. That's me up. Great to know any questions or get some feedback.
Brilliant, John. Thank you so much for a very interesting and informative presentation. So yeah, if anyone has any questions for John, if you want to pop them into the Q&A just before we wrap up before 2. I also just wanted to mention, obviously, as I said earlier, that the recording for this webinar will be shared along with John has kindly offered to share a PDF of the slides that he went through, and I would be more than happy to connect any attendees today with John regarding any feedback or questions after. But for now, I don't think we have any questions, John. So
I've escaped.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, we have one. They've just got in there.
Got it.
So looking at innovation management as an innovation, what is the return on the investment or the ROI?
I'm not coming again. The questions are too hard. What's the return? I think the return on investment, I won't give you a number right now, but happy to talk to you afterwards on what it is. It's high for the original inventors who have more chance of getting things done. It's a relatively good revenue business for us, and it makes a massive difference for society because you're actually getting things through to actually being delivered by having that structured innovation management approach as well. So it depends on where you sit on that line, but it's definitely worth doing. I think it's a sort of fragmented trickiness generally in innovation side of things, and using the innovation management system. I mean, this isn't me, this is the International Standards Organization, been developing this, hundreds of people for 10 years. Maybe there's a business case on it. Maybe there should be some numbers. If you implement it, what do you get? Maybe that's what you're getting at. So I'd say from my experience, it's good, but I couldn't give you a number, but maybe we should do that. Thank you.
Thanks a million, John. They saved the hardest one for last. So yeah, as I said, I'll be in touch with, oh, sorry, we have one more every time I go.
Stuck in there. Is it platform user friendly? I think maybe mean user friendly. Yes, there's a lot of effort going into what's known as the UX on the user experience of millions of hours of for people to click on things. So have a go. I mean, you can go on the internet, just click on, get yourself set up. So, or I can show someone at the time to do some demos, but we think so.
It might be an idea maybe to share a link to that with the PDF and
I'll do that. I'll put the YouTube videos on, and maybe a link on, people can have a go if you're interested as well. So yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, look, we're going to wrap up there. So I just want to, first of all, say thank you to everyone for attending today. And just to remind you regarding recording your CPD hours, and also just to thank you, John, for a fantastic presentation and taking the time today. It's greatly appreciated here.
No, you're very welcome. And yeah, have a good day, everyone. See you around.
Have a good day. Bye.